Welcome to the Doomed to Repeat It podcast, number 005. And we're going to be covering in several episodes Musashi, the epic book of Musashi. We're going to break it down. I read this book about 10 months ago, the fall of 2017, made copious notes, and I read it. I've heard about it, but then I started watching 3 podcasts about a year and a half ago. Tim Ferriss, obviously, Joe Rogan, and Jocko Willink. Jocko podcast. And episode 50, they touch on it. And Tim Ferriss was on there, and it was compelling. And they made a promise that, hey, when we do episode 100, we're going to hit Musashi again. And they did. They were awesome podcasts. So from that time, when they before they recorded episode 100, I went ahead and broke down the 1,000-page tome of Musashi, and I read it every night, and I took notes, and just there's so many lessons in life in here, and what I want to take away from it and share with everybody. So the book is broken up into 4 books, right? So water, fire, wind, sky, sun, and then the last chapter, which is the light. And again, it's an extremely good read. It is the Gone with the Wind for Japan. Musashi was a famous sword fighter, and he was a famous, figure in Japanese history. And he also wrote the Book of 5 Rings and became extremely prolific. We're going to talk more about his biography. But I kind of want to start the book cold and just tell a story. Tell a story and get some wisdom out of these little episodes. So the book starts out, and it's very well written. It reads like a movie. And the dialogue is Hemingway-esque, actually. It's very choppy and short and to the point, and the sentences and the dialogue is rich with meaning with very few words. So it begins in the aftermath of a battle, a very famous battle in Japanese history, and Musashi and his boyhood friend, who had both left home when they were 13 years old from their village to go fight in the war. And they were these boy warriors, and they survived. And they're in this aftermath, and Musashi's at his last breath. He's almost death. He looks around. He can barely get his head up. He's extremely dehydrated, surprised he's alive. He's got a bullet hole in his leg. And his best friend and companion, he's with him there, and they both can't believe that they're still alive. His name is Takezo. Takezo, that's his boyhood given name, Takezo. And his boyhood friend is Matahachi. And basically, they make themselves known to this older woman and her daughter, and to heal their wounds. He tells her, the older lady, the story. They're in their house, and they end up, getting a place to recuperate and heal for a whole week. So the bullet hole in his leg eventually heals, and Matahachi, he's got stomach ailment, probably amoebas or whatnot. And with soup and scallion mix, he's, they're healed. So they have a small fortune. The old lady in the house has a small fortune hidden under the wooden floor. And one night, actually, his boyhood friend, Matahachi, who went to war with, they left at 13, now they're both 16. The older spinster or widower she befriends him, and through lust and drunkenness and whatnot, long story short, he takes off with all the loot and the older lady, and that is, as a 16-year-old, that's his first betrayal. His boyhood friend, who in the village that they were little hellions, and gave their caretakers and the village people of their clan a lot of, hate and discontent, and then they went off to war, and they just being probably just unruly boys, So, but anyway, his boyhood friend takes off, and he will be seen later in the book. So he makes it back. Takezo returns to his village eventually, after being gone over 3 years, and his caretaker is actually the mother of Matahachi. Okay, and he also has a sister, an older sister. So Takezo has an older sister. They're still in the village. When he makes it back to the village, everyone is surprised. Not just surprised, but there's been a lot of, hate and discontent, especially because he doesn't come back with Matahachi. And, the older lady just starts this campaign of hatred, and it doesn't go well for him in the village. And the next chapters is called the Dowager's Wrath. Now, a dowager is a widow who has gotten some type of inheritance from her past husband, but there's also she has another significant other, Gong. His name is Gon, and Gon. So he's pretty much persona non grata. There are lies, rumors. He went off to war. He comes back, and now it reminds me a lot of Highlander. It reminds me a lot of the movies that you hear about. Everyone's back while the warrior's away. It happens in the Crusades. It happens, and you see it in movies like The Deer Hunter. And the theme is that the warrior goes away, and the men that are left behind, the people who are left behind, they build their street cred, and they have what they have because they're working hard. And now all of a sudden, this guy comes back, and he's supposed to be a war hero, and he's almost shunned. He is shunned. And again, it's a common theme for those coming back from war. And friends, family, associates treat you differently, and you have to earn your way in the clan. Well, it's exasperated because he doesn't bring back his best friend. So what happens? The older lady, or the older sister, gets captured and taken away to a castle. And there's someone behind this, and one of the most interesting characters in the whole book. And for a quarter of the way, or about a third of the way of the book, I wasn't a fan of him at all. I thought he was a charlatan, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So basically, they capture his sister, and they put him in this one castle in a faraway village, and now he is continuously berated by his village and kind of outcast. And enter the monk Takawan. Now, Takawan is a 31-year-old, charismatic, good-looking, nice-robed, silver-tongued devil. It is what the author makes him out to be. And it's pretty funny because, again, my impression of him is he's prancing around while there's a war going on, singing songs and delving out wisdom like it's candy, right? And he's extremely confident, very charismatic, and very in tune, and obviously very intelligent as well. So the next chapter of the Art of War, the monk starts to preach to this boy warrior about war and the philosophy of war, and he quotes Sun Tzu, and he gets it. And for some reason, the boy warrior, he's intimidated by him. And through the dialogue, I'm surprised. I mean, this the hero of the story starts off almost cowering to Takuan. And, it's pretty funny, but I'm kind of taken back, but it draws you into the book, right? Like, what power does this monk have? He's not a warrior, he's not a fighter. Okay, so there is a female interest, a love interest, Otsu. Now, Otsu was, a young girl, just like when they were growing up and they know each other. Otsu is mentioned throughout the book, and is actually a very solid character throughout the book, and she appears and she's always there. But Takuan, he has such an influence over her. She plays the flute and knows that that the sound of that flute will bring Musashi out of the shadow, and now he can pounce and permit his plan. So he actually just suggests that Otsu plays the flute. Doesn't command her, just uses persuasion. Why don't you just, your flute sounds so good. It doesn't, oh no, it doesn't. I'm not a very good flute player. Oh, but I think you are, and you don't even have to practice. No, don't worry about it. You don't have to play the flute. We'll just go along. Long story short, she's guilted into playing the flute. This guy is a smooth operator, man. And it was almost like a tint of that he's flirting with her, because his robe is, kind of loose and all that kind of stuff. But it's nothing like that. But there's just that suggestion. So Takazo is lured by the flute, and the love interest Otsu, they get together, and she's just gushing, that her hero, her childhood crush is still alive, because he was, they wrote him off for dead when they left for the war, and he didn't come back for three years. So for his sins and his, relationship with his tribe in his village, he's tied to this old crypt Omera tree, and the scene develops where he's on this tree, and it's like he's crucified. He's tied on the tree, and Takuan is preaching to him and taunting him, and suggesting that he is not a wise man, that he has erred in his ways, that he has so much to learn, and he's going to die on this tree not learning anything, almost to where he's taunting. And me at this point in the book, I'm like, okay, that's it. Takuan, the monk, wants to keep the alpha male role in the village, and obviously this warrior boy at 16 years old, he's a threat. But he's trying to give him some hard-earned wisdom. So, betrayal. So first, opening scene, he was betrayed by his boyhood friend, Matahashi, who left with the older lady after getting everyone drunk and taking the loot. And then now he comes back after war, and he seems to be betrayed by his village, his caretaker, Otsu and Gon. Again, the media campaign that they wage throughout the book is both hilarious and it's a strong thread throughout the entire book. The hatred, the resentment of him from them, it's comical. It's pretty cool. But now he's on this tree, and this monk is just berating him and berating him, and and he's getting so close to death that he screams in agony, and he's willing to make any deal, do anything to get out of this, and decides that he wants to do the right thing in life, and basically is convinced through torture and this taunting of this monk to come down. So as the monk is teasing him, and again, I don't think it's a wise way, but what do I know? But he's using his wisdom, and now he's starting to think. Takazo is using his wisdom, and he's pleading. He's near death. He's experiencing, everything. The lazy, ruinous people he learned, and difference of being brave and being ferocious. He learned the difference between being ferocious and being brave. Death scared him. He's a young boy. He's 16 years old, and he'd already been through battle, but now he knows he has no control over this. He's going to die. But then again, he's tricked again. And, Takwon orchestrates the capture of his older sister. He gets off the tree, and now the warrior boy he's like, the heck with these people. I'm at the bottom of my life. I'm going to go get my sister, and I don't care. I'm gonna do it alone. I'll use my own swordsmanship, and I'm gonna find out where she is, and proceeds to adventure to go get her. So, it's really kind of the birth of Musashi, but started on a tree. So the Musashi and Takazo. Takazo is his boyhood name. It becomes Musashi. The beginning of it became on the tree, but then he ends up getting captured as he's storming the castle. He's storming the castle. He gets captured, and again, Takwon, who is in favor and very good friends with the master of this castle, they capture him and they throw him in the dungeon. And in that dungeon is darkness and books. And darkness and books. Solitary confinement filled with the opportunity to learn. So Musashi reads, Sun Tzu reads all these tomes, and for 3 years, so from 16 years old, now he's 21. I mean, it could be a metaphor for going to college, but that's exactly what he did. I mean, he was self-taught for 3 years, and he comes out of this as Musashi. And Musashi and Takazo are the same. But Takwon, the monk, I mean, he orchestrates this whole thing. He's like the puppet master. And he's the alpha male, not willing to be the alpha male. He is the alpha male by default. Not even the 16-year-old boy, but he sees something in Takazo, or now Musashi, and actually, he's the one that, suggests that maybe you should change your name to Musashi now. You're 21, you have all this hard-earned wisdom. You've led a life of just strife, war and battle from 13 to 16. From 16 to 21, you've been locked up in this freaking dungeon, which is books, and it's just a place to well, I don't know if he's decompressed, because he's been a hellion his whole life, right? And he continues to be a hellion, but that badassery over time is more and more controlled, and as he gains wisdom, the form of Musashi changes throughout the book, and it's pretty cool. So again, for him, the perceived deception after deception after deception takes him on this journey, and you can't help but think about what it will do to a young boy. So another deception, flanking movement. Takuan has brought his older sister to the castle, and the older lady is Asugi. Asugi, now she's 63 and has an uncle gone. I told you about Uncle Gone. He's about 52 or 53 in the book, and they're still searching for him. So they've packed up all their stuff, and they've got this vengeance to find Musashi, and just Asugi wants to kill him because he was responsible for her son, and she's got that going for him. Before he made it on the tree, Otsu, the love interest in the book, he makes a promise that he would like to be with her, and she says, "Hey, you do what you need to do, go on your quest, 3 years, whatever it takes. I'll wait for you 1,000 days." So she waits for him 1,000 days while he's incarcerated in this castle, and she's out on this bridge, and when he comes out of the castle, they meet, and there's this tension between the two of them, and it almost seems like he's going to go with her, get married, settle down, go into the orchard. And on the Jocko podcast, it's like if you had a vote with all the young, 20 to 30 somethings about men, if he should go do this or go on his journey, it'd be like everyone would vote for him to go on the journey. Leave her at the bridge. So she says, "I've got to go pack. Give me 5-10 minutes. I'm going to go into the shack and get on." Because he's been living in poverty, waiting for this guy to come out of prison and go with him and be, married and all that kind of stuff. So as she clackers off into the shack to get her pots and whatever she needs to carry with her, he bolts. He bolts, but not until he carves into the bridge. "I'm sorry." She comes back. He's gone on his quest. Out of here. So she returns in the story. Don't worry. And he wants nothing with love, nothing with companionship. She's like, "Well, I can come with you. I won't make a lot of noise. I won't be a lot of trouble." And, you just can't have that. That's never going to happen. That never works, right? So he's 21. He chooses his life over the girl. And there ends book 1. So Musashi, as an adolescent, thinking about, my life, knowing that I was going to be a Marine at 13, making that decision at 13 years old, and actually joining the Marine Corps at 17, signing the papers while I was still in high school, and then leaving the summer after I graduated from high school at 17. I couldn't think of anything else I wanted to do. I had some girlfriends, but I did not miss them a bit. And not because I didn't like them, but because I had a freaking mission, man. I was so intimidated and so anxious to become a Marine that I went in full force, and I loved it. Every second of boot camp, scared shitless for the first phase, and then come to the realization that, hey, if they want to kill me, they can kill me, but I don't care. I'm here. I'm here. I wear the uniform. Whether I make it out of here or not, fine. I did awesome. I loved it. So bringing back memories and little hard-earned wisdom. But I've seen guys, out of high school, they're high school sweethearts, and I'm not knocking them. They do that. They get married at a very young age, and they get sidetracked. They have this commitment. Hey, I'm going to join the Air Force, or I'm going to join the Army, and instead they go the route of love, and that's cool too. That's cool too. You can go either way. I picked this way. So then he's in college, in the dungeon college, in this castle that Takuan orchestrated. And that's where he gets to settle down a bit, read all this knowledge. He's been in the world. He's been a Hellion. He's obviously physically brave and physically adept. He's a little taller for his age. In the book they talk about he's taller than most Japanese of the time, and they call those children sons of a fat year. So it was obviously a good year for the parents, good harvest or whatnot, and extremely healthy and strong. So we're going to cut to book 2, called Water. So take 2. So now book 2, called Water. So Musashi's traveling the land and practices his swordsmanship every day, all day, every chance he gets when he's not traveling. And he ends up at the Yoshioka School, which is a famous school of the time, and it has a storied history. And there's 4 elder swordsmen there, but there are 2 brothers. Okay, so the older brother is supposed to be the young master and take over the school. However, he's not morally ready. He's not courageous. He's not physically ready. He's not a very good fighter at all. And in the book, it seems that the writer describes the school as being somewhat adequate, but also they're disciplined, but they're not well led, and they've lost their way. At one time, it was a great school, the Yoshioka School, and they had great fighters. But since the war, their numbers, even though the numbers have remained high, the quality of instruction and the quality of discipline has waned a bit. So he comes to the school. He says he wants to fight. Enter Musashi into the school, and he just comes in and wants a challenge. So the older, more senior fighters, they get together and say, "Hey, yeah, the older guy. I mean, we know he's not ready to fight this guy. He looks pretty like a serious badass," and they decide to fight in his stead. In other words, they're going to ambush him. And many of them are going to try to get Musashi, put him in a corner. And at this time, though, re-enter Matahachi, who's part of this. And during the attempted ambush, he recognizes him and doesn't say anything. But it goes down the story of Matahachi, who's still with that woman from the beginning of the book. They're married now. She's 39. He's 22-ish. And he's fat, out of shape, still a swordsman. But they're kind of living in the gutter. They're not doing well at all. It's kind of a compare and contrast between the way, Musashi's way, and then this young fellow, his old boyhood friend. It's kind of sad to see how he ended up with this woman. So, but there's this other younger, well-disciplined, they call it sober, taller warrior, Seijoro. Seijoro is going to be throughout the book, and he is part of the school. He's the younger brother of the heir of the school, but he's gone on an adventure. He's not in town. He's the one that should fight Musashi, but Musashi's there, and he says, "I'm ready to fight. I want to find out, how your school is, what's going on." And back in those days, it was probably to the death when you fought a fight. But sometimes they would come up with rules. Okay, so we're going to fight until a broken bone, or we're going to fight until a minor gash. But mostly it was a fight to the death by the sword or the weapons of the time. And Musashi's on this mission to become the greatest, warrior of his time. He wants to do well. And he's there. They fight. He obviously wins. They capitulate. And he retreats. He doesn't want to stick around. He wants to go to the next adventure. But before he leaves, his his nemesis, the older lady in Gong, they are following him, and they know that he's there, and they hang out outside the castle for the 3 months that he's there, and continuously ask for him, and he evades them. And the lesson there is, don't argue with fools, don't get entrapped by fools. You look at the, very big figures in the world, and they get entrapped by these people that just bring them down, right? He's avoiding them. It's not that he's not courageous. He just doesn't want to deal with them. He's that wise. So he's proven himself at the school. He bangs up a bunch of them, and he, his way so far, his style of his swordsmanship is superior to this very famous school, even though it is in decline. And now we're gonna have a new character enter the story, and Jotaro. Jotaro is a little boy who was raised by a samurai and became a Ronin. So his father, who was a Ronin, rose this little boy, but he's a slave in this part. So he got separated from his father somehow at a very young age, and now he meets Musashi. Musashi, he does what he wants to do. He doesn't. People say that he left after defeating these people. When he's a coward, he is his caretaker and Gong are badgering him, and he decides he's not going to deal with it. It's not part of his plan. He doesn't care what people think of him. They call him a coward. They throw sticks and stones. They just don't care. And that's a great lesson for life. There's going to be haters out there. You just have to avoid them. Be nice to them if you do encounter them. But again, I heard many people say this. Haters are welcome. They're going to be out there. You know that if you've got some haters, you're doing the right thing. You're on your path. I heard also a quote that grind until your haters ask if you have any positions open. That's pretty funny. So he's starting down this road, man. He's going from town to town. He's going to find this village, and then he stops by a shop, and he sees these two older gentlemen, and they're making pottery, and they are in such a concentrated state, making these beautiful pots. And he reflects and says, "Hey, these gentlemen have decided that they're going to be the best pottery makers in the land, and they are doing that, and they are very serious about it. And for hours and days and weeks and months and years, they sit and they toil in their craft, and they get better and better and better. Their pots today are better than the ones they made last week, and so it goes." And from then, he has not an epiphany, but he reinforces that, hey, and he even quote, "I want to lead an admirable life. I want to do it because I'm a human being. I want to be the best swordsman that I possibly can, and I'm going to continue to go on this journey." So he sees all these signs along the way that kind of reinforce his aspirations to be the greatest fighter of his time, the greatest swordsman of his time. And you see that too when you decide to go down a certain path. You start to notice things differently. You notice if you hear a good podcast, or if you have a good conversation with somebody, that they're on the path or they're not on the path, and they have you're the same kind of ideals that you might have. So you recognize this along your journey, and all my life I have done that. Now, people that don't align with what I'd like to do and what I'd like to be, I don't necessarily shun them, but I recognize that they're not on the same page that I am. And he's starting to do, well, he's not starting, he's continuing to do this. So Jotaro comes up, obviously with his charisma. He attaches himself to Musashi. 21-year-old Musashi, how he interacts with the 8 and 9-year-old boy, again, like a younger brother or a younger cousin. It's almost comical, but to the point where Jotaro, even though he's being treated, somewhat harshly but wisely by Musashi, he just wants to glom onto him even that much more. And the parallel from his friend who grew up in a structured family, who was supposed to be a lot better because he had more as family structure and more prospects as a boy. Now he's in the gutter with this, 39-year-old shrew, and he's fat and poor. He's not poor. He's getting paid as a paid samurai. So he's in the charge of that house, and he's, got enough money to survive. And then you've got Musashi, who's still growing. He's free to move around the country at will and pick his fights and leave when he wants to leave. So it's, Matahashi, his boyhood friend, decided to go down this path, and, Musashi decided to go down this path, and the successes and failures are evident on both sides. They call it the slovenly path, the solitary and different way. Musashi wants to close the loop on Matahashi's mom and get him on the right track. So he figures that if he introduces Matahashi back to his mother and Gon, then that might repair the relationship, or might keep them from literally stalking him. She's going to kill him. She wants to kill him. Okay, so it's about relationships. He thinks about, getting Matahashi back with his mother and all that kind of stuff. But he charges Jotaro now. He finds this young boy. He befriends, gives him a note. He asks Jotaro to take it to the school and says, hey, I'm going to be back at the school in a year. 1 year from now. So you guys better get your shit together and be ready, because I'm going to come back. I'm going to be well prepared, and so should you. So there's a challenge. He saw some weakness in the school. He's going to go off and continue to adventure and to hone his skills and gain some more wisdom through his travels, and then boom, he's going to come back in a year. A spring breeze. So Jotaro, he found Akemi, who was the sprite who was pilfering the dead soldiers in the beginning of the book, and found that she was here in this village, and still longed for Musashi. Remembers him. And Jotaro, he's coming back from his mission. He gave the letter to the school, and he finds a cart laden with cherry blossoms, lush green mountains, and blah blah blah. Anyway, along the way, the teamster who's in this cart finds him out, kicks him off, and now he's destitute. But this legit samurai, with armor, working for a lord, very well off. In those days, he would have been considered probably a millionaire. He found Otsu, which is the love interest. Okay, and Jotaro finds Otsu through the samurai, because the samurai finds him destitute on the road, brings him up to his castle, and then Otsu's there. So all these little coincidences in this great novel is coming together. So Otsu, if she would have stayed the course, would have reunited with her love. But the snazzy samurai lured her to his master's family, one of the wealthiest shoguns in the land. Jotaro is on his way with the message for his master. Nara is, and then they're all going to Nara. So Nara is a town, and there's a cesspool of Ronin, good and bad. So after the war, these Ronin are actually singular fighters, unemployed fighters. Some are bad, some are good. They all have fighting skills. A lot of them are in the forests that will waylay and rob passersby. Some will kill for money, anything to make a living as a Ronin. So now, the characters of Musashi. We've got Otsu, the romantic interest, Jotaro, the young boy of 8 or 9 years old, and he's on the path. He's on his path. He's been to one school. He's defeated them in combat, and he says he's going to be back in a year. And now he's going to the next adventure for the next episode, the Hosen, and we'll talk about that in the second episode, podcast 006, and as we go through this tome. So lessons here: as he grows up, he's coming of age. He comes of age on the battlefield, 13 to 16. Before that, he was a rake in his little village, in his clan, not doing too well. Comes back without his best friend. His best friend's mother, from a good family, berates him, treated like an outcast. And the wise monk, who actually is one of my favorite characters besides Musashi, comes off as a charlatan. Comes off as a 31-year-old charlatan monk, cheesy robes, cheesy, dialogue with the young ladies and whatnot, but wise. What he does is he recognizes that, hey, Musashi has got to get his shit together, and he needs a little bit of humbling. So he gets tricked into being thrown on this tree, almost dies as, this monk is just berating him the whole time, and he comes to an epiphany. And then he takes his sister, Musashi's sister, captures her, puts her in a castle, knowing that Musashi's going to come and try to rescue her. Gets over there, gets captured, gets thrown in a dungeon with all these tomes, who, by the way, the monk's master, is a very wealthy shogun who owns the castle and the land. He goes through, and that's his college degree. He comes out determined, and then he goes on a search. Enter Otsu. He decides consciously, after her waiting 1,000 days in poverty at the bridge, takes off. He takes off while she goes and gets her pots and her traveling gear, and done. Gets to this next town, challenges the fighters in the school, befriends Jotaro, and again, the dialogue and the story is awesome. You've got to read the book to really get it. It's all about relationships at this point, how he treats others, utmost respect, and with humility, but also being stern. And now he is on to the next adventure. He decides to tell this school, hey, you guys really stink. You got to get your shit together. I'll be back in a year. And then we'll fight again. And then off he goes. Otsu re-enters because Jotaro is pushed off the wagon by the teamster. He's found by this very flashy samurai who takes him up to the castle. He's reintroduced to Otsu. They figure out that they have a common friend, Musashi, who, oh, by the way, left Jotaro back as well on his way because he's a solitary man. He's got to be on his own. As he goes on his own, he's got these people following him by chance or by direction. So, Gon and his wife are following him to, one, badger him and social media, and use social media to berate his character the whole time, but also ultimately to kill him, which is kind of comical because they're in their 50s and 60s. And then Otsu and Jotaro, they're also following him because they, you know, they're attracted to him. Charisma, leadership, but he needs to be on his own. So there you have it, the beginning of it. This should last 4 or 5 episodes. This should last 5 episodes. So this is Chuck, Doomed to Repeat It podcast, number 005, Musashi, part 1. And we'll see you on the flip side. Looking forward to getting this out onto the street. And yeah, it'll be good. So thanks for listening. Those of you that are listening, building up a lot of content before we actually project this off into the interwebs. But it's been a great journey. We continue doing this for as long as I possibly can. So more to follow. This is Chuck from Doomed to Repeat It podcast, number 005.